We want to know your story on the audition process. Did you always know that you were going in for Sarge, or did you have another guy you read for? How did that go down?
I remember I read for Spears, from what I can remember, and I went in for Debbie McWilliams. I think she was there at the beginning of the casting, and then Gary Davey, and it was all on the London side. And then Tony Toe was also in my final audition. I have a feeling I did 2 or 3 auditions. Obviously very nervous. I didn't sort of have any auditions for quite a while. I was working night shift, sort of unloading these lorries. Sounds very dodgy, but it was all legit. So I was kind of working sort of 8 to 7 in the morning, and I wasn't really getting up for many auditions. And then Pearl Harbor and Band of Brothers audition came up in like the space of, 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I just felt, I felt ready to go to work, and it was just amazing because it was really my first television experience, so it was a big deal.
When you were going through all of this, did you see yourself as playing Sergeant Christensen, or did you really think that Spears was where you needed to be?
Well, I didn't really get a script at that point, and I don't know how the auditioning process was going or how long they had been doing it by the time it came to me. Obviously it was like totally sort of unknown. I got to say that is the great thing really about sort of American casting, is that they do really see everyone. And I managed to sort of get in. So I was reading Spears' sides. That's all I had. I think I had 8 pages. But that's it of the script. I didn't have any idea really. I knew that it was going to be a 10-part series, and that it was sort of inspired by Saving Private Ryan of that ilk. That Spielberg had from Tom Hanks. But other than the 8 sides, I didn't really have any insight into the story or the characters. I was happy to take anything that came my way, to be honest with you. But obviously thrilled over the moon to be working, immediately in that sort of company. I think I was out of drama school a year at that point,
When you landed the part, you got everything ready. You cast as Sergeant Christensen, and you were told you're going to spend 2 weeks with Captain Dale Dye and go to a boot camp. How excited did that make you?
Yeah, that was great. I still remember, very clearly the 10 days that we spent in that boot camp, and it was, I think I got drunk the night before, and if I'm not mistaken, it was about sort of 5:30 in the morning when we were all sort of at Hatfield sort of base, and sort of being quite merry, and then slowly getting a hangover on the bus heading out to the barracks, Longmore, I believe it was, and then it was an insane 10 days, it's a great way to sort of, stick a bunch of actors together, and pretty much you're all mucking in together, it's sort of, get rid of any egos at play or anything. So, the bond that everybody really working on that job, but essentially, really sort of specifically that sort of group that went to boot camp. I mean, I still speak as regularly as I can to a lot of the guys, and, it was really, everybody was just sort of, in it together to really, obviously the material that we were dealing with, involved a hell of a lot of respect, and we were portraying these, incredible men that are sort of, not of the same ilk today. I mean, I don't consider myself to have, half of the strength or courage that these guys had, and so you try and sort of fill those boots. They're big boots to fill, but, really fantastic bunch of guys, and obviously, you've got the sort of experts in the business at the helm of it all. So it was a one-off experience.
Did your experience with the boot camp, as well as working with Hanks and Spielberg, change the way you looked at jobs after you were done shooting Band of Brothers? Did you take a lot of the chops away from that experience?
Well, just in practical terms, for sure, the idea of going to a boot camp, right, is it's a very smart thing to do. Like I said already, it gets people working as a team. I mean, there was arguments, but, there was never any fisticuffs. What I did learn within that 10 days, I got to learn my weapon, I got to learn a fraction of what it might be like to be a soldier. So in terms of, like, if I was a 30 cal, I knew the weapon put inside out, break it down, clean it, put it back together. I was in weapons spoon, and we kind of got, I would say, I'm sure everybody thinks the same thing, but we reckon we got the dirty end of the stick, because, we had to sort of, put all the sort of tastings back together, and I was on 30 cal, so, you go through, 300 rounds in a day sort of exercise, and then you got to put them all back in the evening, and then we had duty duty, and then we had a night attack, which I think we got lost in the woods, so it was like 1 hour sleep, and then sentry duty, and then we had to go on this sort of overnight patrol, so we got very little sleep and weapons soon. But anyway, that's enough of the sort of whining. It was after that last outdoor excursion, then we had parachute training, and that the last 2 days were kind of a bottle.
Well, with all that experience with the 30 cal, I know who I'm calling when the zombie apocalypse hits.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like 11 years ago. I might be a little bit sort of rusty.
I just got a message from Shane Taylor. You've come a long way since Monkey Chews.
Yeah. I brought everyone back to Monkey Chews. It was a bar that I used to work in and subsequently sort of lived above while we were doing Band of Brothers. So a lot of the times we'd all congregate there. I haven't seen Shane in years. That's one guy I haven't seen, I would say, probably in about 5 years now. So it's nice to get a message from him.
Mm-hmm.
He's great as Doc Rowe. I mean, geez, I thought really that was, I think, one of my favorite episodes, episode 6.
Oh, absolutely. That seems to be a lot of the ladies' favorite episodes too.
Well, Shane's a good-looking fella.
Yeah, they just loved the way he kept asking for scissors or scissors.
Scissors. Yeah.
Now, during your boot camp experience, were you at the giving or receiving end of some of the shenanigans we've heard about?
Well, explain some of the shenanigans. Give me a hint.
Well,
I think there was like a water fight.
Jimmy Matteo would
Matteo and
sneak
McDonough
attack you.
Matteo and McDonough would attack each other.
The bar fight that Matteo was in. There was an instance.
There was some urinating.
There was an instance of leaving gifts in trailers and latrines for other people.
Yeah, we got into what we did was I think we mixed biscuits up with a bit of water, and we made sort of like these paste balls that you could fire from one truck to the next, and we were doing these sort of shots when we were in trucks. Yeah, just sort of idle hands of the devil's hands, basically. It was the costume weren't too happy with us. I remember that because they had to pick the biscuit off the costumes. But it was all pretty tame. It wasn't too wild. I remember Switzerland was pretty crazy. Quite a few of us did skydives out there in Interlaken.
Right, we heard
you were part of that.
Yeah, that's where.
I think Rick Warden was maybe one of the first to mention that, because remember he said he had jumped and he's never going to again.
Right.
He did not have a good time.
I went on the same jump as him. I was in the same jump as him. He went before me, and I went right behind him. And I remember the guy that Stefan, the guy that I was attached to, I was basically doing all the work. I was just sort of, along for the ride. But he brought us right down, so I ran along the top of Rick Warden's canopy. And then we landed, and it was amazing. And I looked back, and Rick Warden was sitting up, bolt upright, and his face was green. Never remember seeing a face grow like that, sort of green. I've seen grey and white, but that was green. And then he just fell back, and he's like, "No, God."
Well, Rick was actually kind enough to, he was doing a show in Chicago, and he drove all the way down to Kansas City just to do the show live in the studio.
Yeah.
And that was one of our first interview, or one of the first run of interviews in 2010. It was we love Rick. It's fantastic. But yeah, we couldn't get him in the airplane.
He's amazing.
Oh yeah. Such a good time.
Now, what is your favorite episode out of all of the out of all 10 of them? You already mentioned episode 6 as being one of the top 10. Which is another one of your favorites?
I like episode 3, the Randleman's episode, Mike Cutlets. I think that's 3, I'm pretty sure. I like 9, because just purely on a self-pleasing, because I've got a sort of, I've got some coverage in that, coming to sort of, the camp, and it's also a very powerful scene, and a powerful episode, I think, quite a moving one. I would put them sort of perhaps top 3. I like 7 as well. David Frankel, I believe, did that.
Now, I have one of your cast members. Now, you don't have to answer this question if it is a question, but he just Skyped me, and he wanted me to say the naked inflatable climbing wall in Interlaken.
Oh, my God, is that Nick Aaron?
Yes, indeed, it is Nick Aaron. He's listening right now, and he's texted that to me. So, God,
that boy can climb. I can tell you that much. And naked.
What?
Yeah, what's that story?
Well, we were at Interlaken. There was some, youth hostel or something or other. They had a cafe or a bar up there, I think, with a pool table and various things. And they had a climbing wall over a swimming pool. And like I say, by the time we got to Switzerland, that was like the end of, 9.5 months of working together. It got pretty rowdy out there. And I remember Nick said that he climbed the wall, but for some reason that wasn't good enough. He felt like he had to get naked. Oh, that was it, because if he fell into the pool, he wouldn't get his clothes wet. There was a Welsh sort of, logic to it. It was madness, but there was method to the madness.
Well, he's.
He also told me another story that when he got into squaring off with a couple of characters one time. It's great that he's listening. This will make him chuckle and blush, hopefully at the same time. And he's, I think he's like, or kung fu or something of the martial arts. He's, I think, purple belt or something or other. Anyway, so these two guys square up to him in an alley or whatever, and he sort of takes his shoes off. And then just sort of puts them neatly over the corner, tells them to wait up, and then he goes over and bows in front of them and then squares up, and they just stamped on his foot. Obviously, it was sort of game over. But there's 2 bits of information that you should know about Nick Aaron.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Hold
a story we have not heard yet.
Hold on, let me untie my shoes real quick. I'll commence kicking your ass in just a second.
Tell you what, it is impressive to see him climb. He can't climb. He's like a salamander.
That is fantastic.
Now, a lot of the other guys have.
What a great visual too.
I know. I could totally see him up a wall naked and barefoot trying to beat somebody up. Do you have a Captain Dale Dye impersonation?
Get your grenade. You got the pin. Damn it! Get out and walk. I had this visual. I had this visual of this phlegm just sort of walking away from him. Yeah. Captain Dale, he got us lost too on one mission. He won't like me telling this, but we were out doing a night patrol and we were getting from one point to the next. And I was like, I think he was just sort of walking along and he fell into a ditch. Actually, he was like, "Okay, we need to." God damn it! And he was just dropped out of frame. It just went straight down into the ditch, and we were sort of out in the middle of nowhere till 4:30 in the morning. We finally got our bearings, and then he led me through a crossfire. So essentially, that day he got us lost and got me killed. If we were sort of, so real off.
I think I remember somebody else bringing up them getting lost and him very much saying how intentional.
Wasn't it?
That was Dye said after.
Oh, right.
During his interview that it was all intentional.
I meant to get him lost.
This was everything is in the book meant to be. That was part of the training.
I gotta say, I say all of it with the utmost sort of affection for the guy and the team that he employs. Those guys were excellent, and they really gave us a spirit more than anything else. I remember one day he really freaked out because we got these obstacle courses to do, and it's like, okay, great obstacle courses. I've always enjoyed that, getting a fast time and trying to get the fastest time. And I remember going through it, and he gave us a grilling because, people that were slower, we didn't stop and make sure that we helped them over the obstacle and that, that we had to work together as a team. And they really did instill that into us. And the whole team that were working with him, Lieutenant Stokey, all the boys, they were fantastic. And, you really sort of go through sort of getting treated like dirt. And then at some point, there's a sort of, there's an ease off. And you kind of, in a condensed, time frame, you can get an idea of how you have to sort of build respect. And how there is, there's sort of there is a very much, hierarchy within the army, and there's a way to do things, and they did a fantastic job, as they've done in so many other movies, of course.
Oh yeah.
No, he's him and his whole cadre and his whole his whole company, the business that he runs, is just absolutely amazing, and you can definitely see their influence on everything war since Platoon.
And watching things with friends, you get to sit like, oh, I know that guy, and then he and the atomic push-up, like the atomic push-ups that they do at the Marines. Like my friend's brother just graduated. I'm like, Dale Dye invented that.
My problem was just making sure I knew when I was going to need to take a movement, because you're heading out into the field all day. You got to time those things. You don't think about these little details,
Exactly, because you don't want to get stuck out there with just grass and leaves.
No, not when not when there's a firefight at play and you're sort of, your ass blowing in the wind in some bush.
Exactly.
And you're at the mercy of all those men.
Yeah, they'll throw rocks and garbage at you if they catch you out there doing that. Now, it's Nolan. When Nolan Hemmings was on, he was talking about at the end when he was leaving the set, and he basically just put an overcoat on and walked off with everything except his rifle. Did you pilfer anything from the set?
Well, I think because I was so new to everything, I think actually I've got my jacket back home in Ireland. I took one or two things. I think the jacket and the boots are back home, my parents' place. But I've got wiser to that now with experience. I do sort of like, take mementos. But I definitely, of course, you can't take the 30 cal with you, and I felt like that was my sort of right arm really on that. Actually, when I got sort of promoted later in later episodes, I was sort of sad to see the 30 cal go. So I wish I could. Oh, actually, I've got one of the bullets from that as well. Obviously, it's flying.
Excellent.
Legal here.
Now, the last Band of Brothers question that we're going to ask you is the big one. But we have some other things to talk to you about before you go, especially your new movie. But the last Band of Brothers question that we want to get the solid answer to from you is, how would you sum up the men you portrayed, the real men of Easy Company?
Well, I think all the obvious things there, really. I mean, it's just incredible to sort of think how, I think that, the spirit was really sort of encaptioned in the title, Band of Brothers. You've got a group of people that, it even goes beyond political or why they're out there for any sort of secular reasons or what's going on in the world. It's about, how they sort of did it for each other. And that amazing sacrifice, literally guys that would throw themselves on grenades to save their brothers. It seems like it's even tighter bond than a normal family. Obviously, unbelievable courage, integrity, honor. Honor to sort of be wearing the sort of the badges that they wore and the sort of the pride that they had in their each and individual sort of regiments, platoons. And optimistic people, I think. When you meet the survivors and you're lucky enough to sort of have conversations with them, you see the amazing optimism, and you realize, I guess, essentially it's very humbling. It makes you realize how spoiled we all are, in this day and age, and we can get up and go to an airport, fly anywhere we want. Food is readily available for a great deal of us anyways, and the idea of rationing back then, sharing your food, along with, your sort of, your bunker or your foxhole. I mean, it's really too much to sort of, comprehend, really.
Very true. Mm-hmm. Very true.
I just wanted to say a big hello to Chris Christenson and the whole Christenson family. I haven't spoken to him in about 10 years, and just hope everyone's well in the family and that they have a great Christmas. And for me, it was an amazing honor to play Pat Burton Christenson, and thanks for having me on the show.
Hey, Michael, it was our pleasure. Thank you, and we wish you continued success, even though it seems like you're pretty much there, man. And we thank you very much for taking the time to call us today. Michael Fassbender, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, sir.
Cheers. God bless. Bye.